What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Blood on the Razor Wire TV, where we bring it to you real and we bring it to you raw. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video. Got a dude on today, man. We're going to get a different perspective from this brother, right? But he can tell you his story better than I can. Paulie, tell the people who you are, where you're from, and talk a little bit about you and your situation, brother.
Hi, everybody. I'm Paulie from Connecticut, New Britain, Hartford. Got 14 years for robbing multiple banks, did 8 banks in 9 months on a stolen Hayabusa. I ride bikes. So, things happened and, because my family was in the streets and my word is my word. So I had to take care of something that I really had no part of, but to pay off a debt. And then it was so addicting that I just kept robbing banks. And then finally, you know how it is, got your card pulled and then had to step up.
How old were you when you started robbing banks?
I was 26 when I got caught.
So you're on a bank robbery spree at the age of 26. You're sentenced to 14 years. You go to federal prison, right?
Yep.
What's the first federal prison you go to?
I landed in Allenwood in 08, 09-ish, right there from MDC Brooklyn. I landed in Allenwood Penn. Man, it was something I wasn't prepared for. I did a little bullshit skid bid, in the state. I got caught with grand larceny, bikes chopping and all that. That's what I used to do. And man, it was really like, it was something different. And then dudes in Brooklyn was telling me about it. And like, I seen it on their face, like some dudes, they flustered and I didn't really know the magnitude of what really was going on in the federal pen. You know how you got to choose a car and then all that. And then me being mixed race, Puerto Rican and Italian, I ain't never going to drop my race for nobody or however it is, for the politics, but I ended up having to perform after a long time because it was, serious, like catching cells here and here, busting dudes, stabbing dudes, you know what I mean? I got like 30-something write-ups in my time, you know what I mean? Until I finally, when you grow and mature, you finally realize that you don't have forever, you know what I mean? And you don't have forever in this game. So, the maturity and all that, I was like, man, I'm getting close because when I first stepped in, I didn't think this shit was ever gonna come to date, you know what I mean? And then a lot of people on the street, thought the same thing. It was just, it was way different, it was hard.
So what car do you walk into Allenwood, who approaches you first? Do the white dudes, the Italian dudes, the New York Italian dudes? Who approaches you at Allenwood?
Well, I bumped into my buddy, Ricky Wark. He's from Boston. We was in Wyatt together, and then we was on a bus, only us two going to Allenwood Penn. The Boston dudes, they got a stain in the feds. So, off rip, I told him, and he's like, yo, I got a Puerto Rican daughter, blah, blah, blah. He's like, yo, your paperwork's clean. I'm like, yeah, I just, you know what I'm saying? This is in Brooklyn now. When we're we went to the same unit, 43 or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm about to do that right now. So I only really rocked with him for like a day or two. And then we got into it with some Dominicans. I got nothing against Dominicans, but you know how it is in Brooklyn. They real suspect fellas. And the dude was trying to like bully the table, and then so basically, long story short, he disappeared. And so when I came in on the bus with him, he's like, who you gonna roll with? Like white, Spanish, whatever. I'm like, listen, I really ain't on gang time like my father done taught me as a kid around my square. So then, but I did tell him I'd run neutral white, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm half white, Italian, but I'm not really with all that, because I seen the rules, like, I'm like, oh, this is outrageous. So eventually, I got my paperwork within like 2 weeks after I landed, and all the Boston dudes like Maddie McDonald, Dave Sierra, he's from Connecticut, Chucky Russo, he's mob, like, Al Greco, he's Tony Soprano, whatever, and And so they seen that because, they know where it is. Everyone just watches you for a little while. So they heard I got my paperwork quick and all that. So I was stepped by the multiple cars, but I still told them that I'm going to run neutral. So I ended up running neutral with Boston guys.
Really, when you say neutral, really you're an independent white dude from the East Coast and you're running with the Boston, New York, Connecticut guys, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's basically what it is, and yeah, neutral, like aid and assist, basically, because like now that I see it after time, you know, it just like I don't know, it just the politics is whack to me, but I guess you got to have some type of conformability because I see how the feds made it to be racist because if you read Sun Tzu Art of War, like number 5 or 6 or whatever, I'm not precise, but divide and conquer, and they have that in the federal system.
So you're running with the white dudes at the time. Something happens to one of them, you're gonna do what you got to do. You end up getting a bunch of write-ups. Do you ever have to put in work in Allenwood at all?
Yeah. Well, that's funny you say that because I had to do what they call a public demonstration. So, anyways, I'm there for like probably 6-7 months. I'm cleared. I'm rocking with Maddie McDonald. A bunch of Boston dudes. Just hitting the weight pile. My buddy Ricky, he's there, and a whole bunch of people, and basically, long story short, this dude come off the new from Big Sandy or whatever, and he was holding, and then I really wasn't fucking around because I had, like I had substance abuse problems in the past from, I had crashed my Banshee because I ride bikes and I stunt. So I crashed my Banshee, and then that's when they had gave me Oxycontins, and then, I started formulating an addiction. But, one thing that I learned from my father was you never put addiction before priority. So that, and I was running with a major crew in Hartford, making money and all that. So I really never had that issue. So then when I went to jail, my people before they died were like, yo, try to better yourself. Like, you're a smart dude. So I really wasn't getting high. So this guy's getting high. You know how I'm not gonna I don't like to put people in a bunch, but you know how a lot of people like to go high and then run bills up and start problems, all that shit. So something did happen, and then I eventually did get something from the dude, and then I didn't know till later that they used me as a missile to blast dude off the yard because when I find out Spanish, black, the whole compound owed this dude hella money, and they used me as, yo, you gotta put in work. So then, yeah, so I ended up blasting this kid in the middle of the field. It was right, the last wreck move. This dude was like the biggest dude I ever seen. He was like 6'6". He's from Oklahoma. I'm not gonna say his name. He had a size 15 foot, the biggest white boy I ever seen, and so the Boston dudes and this other dude, he's AB from Arizona, whatever. He kind of had the keys for the yard for the white racist dudes. And I learned something very important right then and there was that this dude named Dat from DC, he's notorious. He's in one of your pictures in the show. He overturned his case or whatever. So after this, he tells me, look, you don't never speak upon it. You're just gonna move. And he's been down 20 something years at the time. And he's like, hey, look, he pulled his shit up. He's like, yo, bro, look at my teeth. I got no stab wounds. I ain't been $150. He's like, because I move first. When people or whatever, I feel it, I move first, and then I'll just go on to the next. So long story short, that didn't happen with the Boston guys, whatever. So I didn't really peep it until I was walking to the field because he's coming out the shoe because they kept shooting him in and out the shoe because, Allenwood's so like, it's like a high school, bro. You know what I mean? And they already knew what time it was that he owed mad bread and he was about to get blasted. So, but they didn't think it was going to be me. You know what I mean? So when I'm walking to go blast dude, he come out to shoot his boxes and stuff. I'm with my buddy Ricky Wark. So this is what I say about telling because I'm not going to say names, but everyone's like, yo, dog. So they wanted me to book them. So I'm like, yo, bro, I ain't booking nothing because it's a drug debt. Like, dude ain't hot. You know what I mean? So I was like, I'm going to lock him. So, do what we do with the lock or whatever. And then,
I want to stop. Listen, I want to stop you for a minute because people watching the show, they don't know what booking him means, right? So when you book someone, you're stabbing them, right?
Yeah, you repeatedly hit them with blunt objects. I mean, I studied autonomy in the joint. So my future, when I booked someone in Louis Burke Schmoo program, I knew where to hit and not. But, certain people may not. And that's why you have a lot of these type of accidental killings, from stabbing, because they don't know where's what. Some people don't realize that anything over like 2 inches is going to hit major arteries and organs and all that. So, so I already, like, down the road, I learned that. But beforehand, I was like, I'm not stabbing the dude. He's not hot. Like, this is rules that Matty McDonald told me about, because he already been doing 20 years. He's the one that they made the town after, him and a couple other his buddies. You know what I'm saying? And I rocked with him, and he brought me a lot of insight in the joint. He was in Beaumont when it was rocking, like, so he was like, kid, just bust him. Like, so, yeah. So I didn't want to stab him, book him. So I made actually my buddy made a badass unicorn. Because at the time they were making all type of stuff. So he made like a real small strap, and he's like, look, just keep it slow. So when you're going to fight with it, you just keep, you know what I mean? So, and that's what it was, like that.
You hit the dude yourself, or does someone go on the mission with you?
Okay, so yeah, so like I said, so all the cars talked about it, about whatever, and then dudes was like, "This is why I say you don't really tell no one when you're gonna move, even your own car," because I was at the time I was in 3A in Allenwood, and my buddy Ricky and Scotty Brown didn't get off the new, but he was just in the hole. So everyone's like, "Yo, blah, 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 we're gonna grab the lock." Everything was all textbook, right? You know what I mean? It was sweet. I was psyched. I was like, yeah, I'm about to put my work in, like all these new guys get hyped up about doing, you know what I'm saying? And that's it. So Ricky Work was like, yo, I'm gonna come with you. I'm gonna pull up on you, because he had some homies from Oklahoma. So like, yo, just bust them, and if anything happens, I got you. So when the time came out the shoe, we walk in, Ricky's right there, aid and assist, like a real man's supposed to be. So he pulls up to the field, and I ended up hitting him by myself. Yes.
Try to fight back?
Yeah, he fought back, but see, like, I had waited for the right moment, and I was gonna bust him right in his nose. If you get hit in the nose, take all the fight out. You, I don't care if you're, not Tyson, but most of the people are gonna get busted up. You know what I mean? So at the last minute, he smelt it or knew, I don't know, but he jerked, and then I ended up busting his whole. I gave him a 7-inch scar across his forehead. That's how hard I was. And, and at the time I was a bigger dude. My parents died or whatever. And I had gained some weight hitting the weight pile. So, I mean, I'm happy I didn't, God's grace, because I could have killed the dude,
So you hit him, he's fighting back, and you said you're excited about it. Like, you get this adrenaline pump. You're like, man, I'm getting this dude. But really, dude never did nothing to you, right? Personally.
Yeah, he really didn't. He was working for the dude that he came in off the new, a Big Sandy, whatever his story was. And then, like I said, it was all about drugs. You know what I'm saying? And you know how it is in the pen, or really in the feds, which I could never comprehend when I stepped off the new and I started, and I even asked Maddie, I'm like, yo, bro, how the hell you got a Visa card when you come off the new? And these dudes don't even got no bread. Some of them got no families. I feel bad for those people who are in that position, but that's what a lot of the problem is. Like, dudes just running up crazy debts, and then now I feel disrespected that you owe me bread. You know what I'm saying? So now I gotta take my respect back.
So now, let me say this, right? Like, when we had East Coast Car and Big Sandy, Pollock, USP Lee, we never sent one dude on a mission. If we went on a mission, we went on a mission together. It wasn't just one guy. So that's crazy that they just sent you. I mean, especially if this is a big dude. Back then, we didn't do stuff like that. What year were you over there in Allenwood?
I dropped into Allenwood right after the Christmas bus, 08, 09. Then from there, I left there probably a year and some change later.
What was Matty McDonald like, man, living around Matty?
Matty's like, man, he's like, you never know he's got a million years or whatever, And then, like, dude was telling me, like, my man Dave Sierra from Connecticut, he's a beast. Like, he escaped from whatever he did. He's like, he was serving a big time, and he was like, yo, that dude's a serious dude. So it wasn't until like a couple months later that we're watching history on the white station, and I'm flipping through because, like, I had the orderly job. So, like, everyone goes out, and then so I'm watching it, and then I flip through it, and I see the real actual footage of them stealing the armored car. And then I'm like, damn, this dude's really about that life. You know what I'm saying? Him, Joey Nuts was on a side thing with them or whatever. But, you know, he's convicted of all that. And you just wouldn't know he has life. And, you know, and then so I learned something from them type of dudes that, you know, like with me, when I got caught for my robberies, you know, I accepted the exceptions of a man, like, because I was brought up with morals and principles. So when you get caught, you get caught. You don't sit there and tell on your man, your moms, your neighbor. You know what I'm saying? You do your time like a man. I learned that, you know, even before I was in that, even when you're stealing candy from the store or whatever, you get caught, you pay the price.
Does it happen where you're in prison and you're like, you know what? I don't want to run with the white dudes no more. Does that ever happen? And you decide to do something different?
Well, actually, yeah, that did happen so I ended up leaving there because some funny money happened with, like I said, Allenwood is kind of like, it's restricted. So shit don't come in like that. So it wasn't until, like I said, almost a year later, some other dude dropped in with a bunch of stuff. And so I started indulging in stuff. Well, before that, man, I say I had indulged a couple months before that. And we went to the yard, you know, like the neighborhood. We went and caught man, I went, did my thing, sniffed my little thing, whatever. And then, bro, fucking 4:30, the SIS and all them goofballs are at my door talking about urines. And I'm with this old dude from Rhode Island, you know, and I'm like, what the fuck you talking? And so they're like, yeah, so they open the door and lock it again. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, hey, kids, someone done told you out. I'm like, what? So then when I get down there, I ended up SIS. I see the 6 other dudes that caught from the whole joint waiting for piss tests. So I'm like, man, this game is sour, bro. So that took that. And then, you know what I mean? Was in Hazleton, which was there. I learned a lot. Like, and dudes was telling, like Maddie and a bunch of other dudes was telling me, hey, Allenwood is like, it's, you know, it's rocking, but this ain't a pen, homie. So when I land in Hazleton, I get into a situation that I did turn out to be later, that I found out this dude named Beaker from Texas, he's no good. His paperwork's crazy. Like, you know, but he was the only one on the yard repping AB. Now ABs, Texas ABs are, you know, I've been with them other joints. They're real serious dudes, good dudes, clean, you know, they do the right thing. But he was suspect. He's the only one on the yard. And dudes was like, yo, stay away from the dude. So, but he was in my unit. I was in Charlie 2, which was a rocking unit. And find out later he was working for SIS. You know what I'm saying? So I had got caught up in some shit with him. He tried to put someone in my cell because I had an arrangement with Marrero, good dude, good counselor, you know, he's from New York, and he was fair, you know. And so since I'm mixed race, he's like, hey, Canada, look, you could take Mexican, white, Indian, whatever, you know what I mean? Just rock with me on bus days, and you got a single cell. So, you know, a single cell in the joint is like, you know, cool. You ain't got to worry about bathroom dudes, you know, not watching you, but putting the curtain up and shit, you know, just your privacy that we're stripped from when we enter the system, our dignity. So that little thing helped. And then that happened to be with dude. He tried to put some dude from Coleman 2. And at the time, Coleman 2 was drop spot. So all the dudes in the Boston car, and like now we're like less in big in Hazleton. So we got like New York with us, like the Gemini twins. One of Henry was there. So I'm like, you know, I'm not taking dude, you know, and I kind of did something wrong. You know what I mean? And because I was emotional, you know, I haven't conquered my emotions at that time. I was still young. I was like 28 or whatever. So I did one thing wrong, and they turned, you know what I'm saying, that into something, but I still was right, but they still turned a right into a wrong. So then I learned then and there, you know, that maybe I should just probably get with a better crew that has more like guidelines and ain't on like worried about chasing drugs and, you know, and stuff like that.
Let me stop you, Paulie, because some of the people listening, they're going to say, well, what did he do wrong? They want to know. What did you allegedly do? What was wrong?
All right. So this is the political rule of jail ethic. You're supposed to accept anybody that comes off the new. Well, this dude ain't come off the new. So I was right. He was in another unit, and this goofball dropped whatever he is, Beaker. he went behind my back and put a slip in to move this dude in my cell. So I had just come back from recreation at the time, and that was a big Sereno yard. And there was, I met real good dudes from the West, and I rocked with them out there, worked out with them, did other things with them. So when I come back, and she suitcases at my door. So I'm like, yo, are you serious? So then my homie Ghost from Connecticut, Hartford, he was 2 doors down. He's like, yo, son talking about it coming up in your cell. I'm like, what? I'm like, yeah, all right. Like, so what I did wrong was he still ain't entered the cell. He knew what time it was. I got caught with 2 bone crushers in Hazleton, which sent me to the SMU right after that. And I prayed every day I didn't have to use those things because they was really deadly weapons. So this is what I did wrong. So when we're going down the stairs, the dude, when I was coming out, he's like, hey, can I move with you? I'm like, yo, bro, you ain't got no work. Dude say you like, bro, you're going to put me in a position that I'm not trying to get put into, bro. I was like, there's 100 other white cells in here. Oh, they're old dudes. You're a cool dude. You, because I had my cell all done up. And so basically me and Beaker started arguing in front. We're waiting for Chow. And Marrero's door was open. You know what I mean? And I think he kind of baited me into that. Like I said, I was so hyped. I had an 8-inch joint ready just to, if I was disrespected, he didn't cross the line. So I'm, and basically I did say, dude ain't coming up in there. He's, and right there, they use that. You're refusing a white dude or any race. You know how it is with any race. You're refusing. But, in some other races, it's not like that, which I learned down the line. Some other cars, that you could refuse somebody. You could refuse to put in work. You may not have 1,000 years. You may have light. Some of these dudes don't. So it's very different. So that's what I did wrong. I was, talking loud and telling him I didn't want to accept dude. You know what I mean? But I really didn't say it like that. I said, yo, just have him come up in there. He ain't coming up in there. If he come in there, he can see what time it is. That's all I said. I ain't draw a tip. I ain't tell. I ain't do none of that. So he took that and ran to the yard with the dude Spike, in which he ended up with Beaker down the line, got demolished. Because I was in the schmoo, and I'm hearing all the stuff come back.
Hold on, let me stop you. I know who Spike is, right? Tell the people about Spike got hit in Lee County though, didn't he, or was it Hazleton?
Well, because he got ran up out of there. You know what I'm saying? I forgot who did it. It might be my man Bus. Bus is from Philly, good white dude. He ended up getting caught up in the racial thing, which is, I don't knock nobody if you're racial, homie. You know what I'm saying? The Bible says it specifically, lions and lions, zebras and zebras. But for me, I can't pick a side. You know what I mean? Because I'm biracial. But long story short, they ran him up out of there. They demolished Beaker in my unit. And I heard that they was chasing Spike, and he ran to the little SIS brawl that he had in the pocket. And then he went to Lee County and got demolished. Yeah.
So anyway, let's get back to the question at hand, right? You end up telling the white dudes, I'm good. I'm going to run with the Puerto Ricans?
Yeah, that was later down the line. So I didn't run with the Puerto Ricans until after SMU because, I go back to the shoe for all that, right? So with the situation with Hazleton, they were scared of the Boston dudes, and all of us tri-state cars were like, yo, I'm like, nah, bro. They're like, oh, you're wrong. I'm like, nah. So they're like, yo. So I really didn't have really much of a choice. I did, but I didn't. And then at the last moment, they just rushed in or whatever, because it was a big thing, they know what's going on. So then the 2 Boston guys at my unit at the time, you know what I mean? I'm like, yo, they're like, hey, just go to the shoe. We're going to clear this out with Spike. We're going to go get, because, Henry's on the other side. It was split at the time. So I'm like, all right. So when I get back there, 1 week goes by. Then my celly goes by. I send a kite out and still nothing. Then 2 dudes come back there from Boston. They ain't talking to me. So I'm like, yo, what's up with these dudes? Then another dude, the Mexican, a Sereno kid, come back there from my unit. And he's like, yo, homie, your little stash you had stashed, but all that shit's missing. So, you know what I mean? So then all that, and then, me having to stand on basically me, I could have busted my comrades, with the police right there, but I ain't really one like that. I felt like I kind of believed them. You know what I'm saying? So then when I see the bail ain't come, and then finally Marrero was like, hey, this dude Beaker got a separate T on you. So, I'm like, damn. So I said another guy like, yo, bust dude off the line. And then I ended up getting with Mikey Kennedy. He was the other one from the unit. So I'm like, hey, so he actually went out there and busted dude in a cell. Like, he demolished him. And when I was at rec, I seen them both come in. Beaker's got an eye like this. They fought, whatever. Yo, Beaker gets bonded out the next day. Mikey's in there. Then they put Mikey in for schmoo for drinking. So then, me standing on that, basically, checking in or however other cars want to put it. Me, I'm just like, I believe my men, you know what I mean? That I thought me, cooking bowls with and on the line. Cause there was a race riot there and there was almost 2 race riots in my unit, but the main thing about it was before that was when the Bloods and the Tri-State smashed out in Hazleton. So that kind of like some other repercussions ended in a race war. And then I see how really real could get fast, in the joint. And then, so I had to go through all that in the schmoo, standing up on beating motherfuckers up. Yo, you checked it. Bitch, I ain't checking shit. Here's my shit right here. Like, it just says, that they took me off the line and all that. So, and it wasn't until I got in the cell with Oscar Sanchez, which he's his case, like I said, like I told you on the phone, his case has Pablo Escobar in it. This, you know what I mean? And he had a lot of problems in the thing too, because the people hating, he got money. So, but he put me on to the Puerto Ricans, the Nietas and all that, and their manifesto and their rules, and that they don't expunge people for no reason, and you just probably end up depending on it, because if you're a child molester, rat, or institution, all that, you got no say. Like, niggas gonna dog you, motherfuckers gonna dog you. So basically, I seen what I was like, like, damn, like these people actually will give, because not everyone's not perfect and in the pen, sometimes I feel a dude may need a warning or two, that's just me. I'm like a passionate, like I don't like to hurt people, you know what I mean? So all in all, yeah, because you can't gang up in the schmoo, you can't, I don't say gang, I say associate, you know what I mean? So then when after the schmoo, I landed in Canaan, and I still told him like, yo, I'm just going to be on aid and assist with you, you know what I mean? Like, and then, so, yeah, I did rock with the Puerto Ricans. And then, so that was like 6 years or more. So from really back, like when I joined the car and with the Puerto Ricans, my bid kind of got way easier. Like, Nietas got wild.
Let me stop you for a minute. So at one point, these dudes are talking, saying you checked in, and really you didn't check in, right?
Yeah, no, I didn't, because it was like, like the whole upstate car was like, yo, because Spike liked to do numbers, they're all a bunch of, I can't say a bunch, but it was more cowards than men in his car, you know what I'm saying? So they were like, yo, they're gonna smash. They were 150, 200 of us, and there was only like 20 of us from up north, whites, New York, Boston. So, like I said, they turned.
I've been there, bro. Listen to me. I've been there with Stevie Burke. He was bringing dudes in the car from Texas, Oklahoma. It was just full of lames, bro. So I know what you're talking about, but go ahead.
Burke. I heard about Stevie Burke. Yeah, so basically that's what it is. But see, if you do check in and you sign the paper and all that, you got this, it's gonna say it, you know what I mean? And then, like I told them when I went down there, I'm like, nah, y'all came and pulled me off the yard in front of 150 of, good men. Like, and there was some real good men in my unit that were there that, they got wild respect. So I knew I didn't do nothing wrong, but yeah, they said all that. And what comes in with saying you're checking, dudes trying to, use you for an easy target or trying to get out of a dope bill because, oh yeah, he's a check-in, let's go blast him. So, you know what I mean? It was more like I didn't leave the whites because of, of the check-in thing. No, not at all. It was that I had just seen wild treachery, and that, like I told you, I was on the front lines for multiple times. In Allenwood, like they put the battery in my back. Then in Hazleton, like I told you, there was the thing stemming from the blood and all that. There was a situation in my unit with the Boston dudes against the blacks, and I'm cool with all races, you know what I mean? And so, like, you live and learn. And so I was just like, you know what, man, it's just, I'm getting short, I'm just ready to change my life. So I just, what I mean? I had to stand on it, and that's it.
The white dudes kind of, no disrespect to you, they were kind of using you like a crash test dummy in the beginning, right? They sent you out on a dummy. They sent you out on a dummy mission, bro. I'm gonna call it how it is, right? Like when we did something, man, we just had rules, bro. We never did it one-on-one, right? We were East Coast car, ran by the New York and Boston. I mean, Stevie Burke ran the car. Adam Oliveri was second in command from the Bronx. And when we had to do something like that, then we did it 2 or 3. We never lose, bro. We send enough so we never lose. And they send you out there on this big ass dude. It's kind of like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But you're putting in work, man, and you're doing your thing. And it's not to belittle you, bro, but it's just to say, hey, look, this is how things work. And then obviously it built up some animosity, right? You're like, man, fuck these dudes. And I understand what you're saying because I've seen a lot of white scumbags in prison, right? I'm white, man, and I care about my people, right? But
of course,
I also despise people that take advantage of people, man. And then earlier in the show, you're like, hey, man, the ABTs are good dudes. Me and you have a difference of opinion, but that's fine. You're entitled to that. But anyway, what's some of the worst shit you ever seen in federal prison?
Well, actually, I did write this down in my journal because, in the Fed after 10 years, you go to a psychologist. So I'm going to psychologist and all that because, I didn't think I was that fucked up when I got out. And I only been out 9 months, and being in the trenches, carrying knives and all that puts an effect on you, basically makes you schizophrenic, So the worst thing that I seen was a few things. I seen a few things, but my first real thing was in USP Allenwood. I was only there a couple months. Dude comes off the new native crip. So at the time, it's WS there, and they just let one rock. So you know how the administration is. They're gonna
tell the people what WS is, War Society, right? But I want the people need to know it's another Native American group, right?
Yeah, they're real serious guys out of Arizona. I met a bunch of them, been at different joints. They're like just like most of the cars. We have morals, principles. We have in-house rules. You gotta carry yourself correctly. So yeah, them dudes, War Society dudes. I guess they dropped 2 in. They dropped 2 in on top of the one already. So I had 2 of them in my unit. So when I'm going down, it's just morning handball time. So I'm going to play the handball court. So like I said, at the time, I really hadn't been into the psychology thing. So I didn't see the signs and symbols. But when I went to the bathroom, there was 2 natives and one blocking the door. He's like, hold on, bro. So they did their thing or whatever. You're good. So I go in the piss, and then in Allenwood, all the things are right here. And then there's the toys in the back. So when I'm walking by, I see one of the dudes fucking rip open a bag of coffee and start drinking it with no water. So I'm like, yo, what's up with dude? So I'm like, yo, this dude's 7:30 for real, right? But I don't know. They about to go put some real labor and they need a jolt of energy. So whatever, I'm on my business. Like I said, I walk by, I don't stare. I'm like, oh, fuck, man. So I'm pissing. So, I'm looking at my prefro. They doing their thing. They start stacking mad coffee because back then in the shoe, you could bring stuff with you, necessities to the shoe. So then I see another native dude that I kind of knew because he drew from another block. He brings 3 more bags of coffee. So I'm like, oh, they about to do something for real. So I hit the handball court. I won something. The bus comes. So they drop the natives out. And then I'm still playing handball. But at the last minute, my homie's like, yo, look. And then you just see one talk at the education door. His name, Soul got I'll say his name because I ended up meeting him in Macquarie. He ended up getting 3 years for this. So he got the dude at the door. And then there's the 2 other ones on the court, basketball court. Man, they dog these dudes like you never seen. So, but I'm kind of far. So, so when that shit starts happening, people start spreading and getting different areas. So, but I happen to be with one of the homies from Connecticut, I'm Black Time. And I gave him a care package, like, cause Allenwood was different. The Boston's rocked with the blacks, and I heard from down the line other, racist people, other yards say, oh, Boston dudes, because we're still interracial, whatever. So the dude's dogging them. And I see he dogged him so bad, the dude just collapsed at the door. No police. Then you got the other dude who's fighting. And then the dude pulled out something like, man, in my journal, I write is like, you remember in Dances with Wolves? I don't know if you're familiar with that old school movie. After he dropped off Kevin Costner, I forgot the dude's name. He's driving and he bumps into a bunch of wild Indians. And the dude had a knife with leather, beads, fucking feathers. So, you know, I'm like flabbergasted because I can't believe who's gonna have a knife this big. Where like my mind's like, you know, I heard that they cut the metal, but I didn't. Like I said, what I learned from Maddie and all that was, if you don't tell, I don't ask. You know what I'm saying? So like, I didn't have to really worry about weapons at the time because Boston at Allenwood, we were so deep. Like, it was just like I said, you just knuckle up, hit the cell, whatever. So when I see this thing like, and then beads, leather, feathers, I was just like, so they just dog both of them, and then they pull out the gun, whatever. Still, they dogging for like 4 or 5 minutes, bro. And then all their shirts were crazy bloody. And then finally, you know, they hit the deuces and all that. But the dude, the fella on the basketball court had excuse my language, a knife hanging out of his back. And if you know anybody in Allenwood that was there, they'll tell you the same story. The dude rolled off in the ambulance, the red ambulance, with a knife sticking out this big. Everyone's going crazy, the staff. But, you know, before all that, one of the dudes was screaming for his higher power, the law, his homies, and ain't nobody come. So then and there, I learned another vital lesson of, because I didn't put the work in yet, a vital lesson of, you know what I'm saying? You got to run your own square, homie, at the end of the day.
Well, listen, man. How long you been out of prison now?
I got released in April 23rd of this year.
So after all them years in prison, do you think it affected you mentally and emotionally?
I would say yes and no, because when I had just left, you know what I mean? I dropped security finally after almost 11 and a half, 12 years of being stuck in the pen. You got counselors and all that don't want to drop you down. Like, you're a violent person, all this stuff. And I went to, you know, pre-release classes, and I'm hearing all the stuff they're saying. I'm like, nah, that ain't me. Like, so yeah, you know, it took, you know, my fiance to tell me all these things that I'm doing, you know, but after a few, like, I was out like 4 months and I started to, like, you know, start to trouble grip with, yo, I'm just making it. I'm working like a, you know, like a slave, you know, I'm working construction, but they got me as, you know, I'm only making like $17 an hour or whatever. And everyone else is, you know, but that's part of coming out as a felon and starting ground up. So I did all that. But then, you know, me starting to have criminals, you know, thoughts and all that. But it really wasn't until when I would spaz out on my girl and I started to have like accusatorial things. Like, you know, my girl would be at work or whatever, and because she didn't text me in 2 minutes, yo, what you doing? You cheating? Like, you know, yeah, some wild shit. And then she ended up looking up online that she's like, yo, you got fucking irritability, you got anger problems, you got schizophrenic traits, you know, and then another trait that I had, the schizophrenic, that she pointed out to me one day.
After she reads all that, she stays with you?
Actually,
I'm just playing with you, bro. I'm just messing with you, man.
Hey, actually, me and her have a deeper bond than that, and I love her so much. She's the beautifulest thing in the world. I happened to be, you know, lost her virginity. We were in high school, so we went on our path. She took her career. I took the criminal life. Yeah, but she did step back a little bit, and then that's when I was like, hey, you know, damn. You know, after she read that shit that day, I couldn't get out of my mind. I'm like, damn, bro, like, is that like really what I am? So, you know, my PO at the time, he was like, I was doing this little, you know, class or whatever, and he kept telling me, yo, go to the psych thing. I'm like, yo, bro, I gotta work, bro. I said, psych is not paying my bills, homie. Psych ain't paying my car insurance, my wild phone bill. Like, you know, I like the things. See, the problem was I was caught up in the life that I lived, the traveling drug life and robbing life before. So, you know what I mean? That's how it was. And then, yes, she stepped back, but it was me making the initiative of going to psychology. And they tried to put me on a whole bunch of medication, but I'm told, nah, I can't do all that. So they ended up finding a solution, non-narcotic, like sleepy pill. And believe it or not, you know, I don't want to sound weak because people say people are weak that take pills, but that shit helped me. And I've been on it probably for like almost a month and a half now. And everyone around me sees the difference. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm going to try that out for a little while and see how that works. Because at the end of the day, she would have left me if I didn't correct. Because who wants to be with a dude with all them traits? You know what I'm saying?
So look, man, before we close the show, man, is there anything you want to say, a message you want to give to people that are on the wrong road?
Man, absolutely. I mean, for me, it always takes two things, like twice to understand it. But some people may not. Some people caught up in this life. I mean, whatever. If that's what you choose to do, then that's what you choose to do. Just know that the feds are not playing with nobody. They're gonna give you 1,000,000 years if you go to trial, and you'll probably get 500,000 if you cop out, if you do some serious stuff. So just know the consequences of your actions, you know. And it's hard to say because, like I said, I robbed 8 banks and was facing 112 years. And I didn't know the magnitude of it. Good thing I didn't have a violent crime at all, because I would have been stacked up, you know. But yeah, it's not, crime doesn't pay, bro. Because listen, the game from when I was growing up and my parents was a different. Now, you know, however this younger generation or in general it is, there's no loyalty or honor or none of that. So, you know, if there's none of that, how come am I gonna come out of doing all this time and have one last chance at life? Because I'm borderline career criminal, armed career criminal. You know what I mean? So how could I trust the code when the players are sour? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's just not worth it, bro. Like, you know, and the money thing now with the drugs is way different. But, you know, basically, like, you know, I got an acknowledgement I like to say, but if you ain't a man and you can't accept when you get caught, but you accept, you know, fast cars, fast street bikes, fast women, and that time when you get caught up at the end, you got to accept as a man that part of the game. You know what I'm saying?
Paulie, I think that should be the message, man. That there's two sides to this. There's a good side and a bad side, right?
You can't accept that part of the. If you can't accept, you can accept the good part at the beginning when you got your Benz, your Beamer, whatever, and then now when you caught up in the jail cell and you got an indictment or whatever, and now you want to tell your mom, your dad, your dog, you know, I mean, if that's what you do, that's what you do. Me personally, I grew up little, and my people from Puerto Rican Italians, you know, I was still little. You never betray your loved ones, your friends, you know, and now, so, you know, I come home, and because of those, you know, roads that I walked, I got homies that still do their thing and all that. And they are, I don't, give me some money. Oh, all right, here's some money. I don't want drugs. I don't want this. You know what I'm saying? So I had to wake up every day, look in the mirror and see, you know, some people could deal with that. They could ride the shoe all day for 20 years, 15 years. I mean, homie, like I got mad infractions and, you know, the little 60 days, 100 days or whatever, that shit busts you down. And if you ain't strong mentality, you're going to string it up, cut your wrist or whatever, you know?
Listen, man, I appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to close the show, man. Me and you will probably do a part 2, man. I think there's a lot of stuff we should talk about. But again, man, I appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, sharing your experiences. I'm going to close the show. I know you want to give a shout out to your people maybe before we go.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for you, Chad, for bringing light on the Fed system, how all the money's spent and it's not spent on rehabilitation or bettering the person to succeed in society. Like my case is slightly different. I have a good system, and, you know, at times I couldn't pay bills and I had to humble myself to ask for help. I'll catch you on my next 2 week when I get paid. So anyways, thank you for you. When I got an acknowledgement to all these people during my 13 and a half years off of 14 years in the trenches. First off, the higher power, my fiance, Paula, my mom, dad, and grandparents, my sister, my cousin, Ronnie, and the rest of my family. Secondly, Betito from Boston, Pangui from PR, Omar from PR, Danny from PR, Plata from PR, Malamorte from PR, Charlie Smalls from PR, Trenta from PR, Mako from PR, Wheezy from PR, Oscar from Colombia, Arturo Cruz from East LA, Louis from East LA, Fox from East LA, Bugsy from LA, Javi from Laredo, Texas, Cholo from Alabama, Texas, Big Meech Stuckey, Pac-Man from Louisiana, Black Man from DC, Little Mac from DC, Little Mel from B-More, Maddie McDonald's from Charlestown, PJ from Charlestown, Ricky Wark from Boston, Scotty Brown from Boston, Big O from Dorchester, Mad Max from Rochester. Shout out to your peoples, and Juan Santana from Buffalo. These are all real men that I met in the USPs. They live by the code, facing forever or less, and they have a rare trait, camaraderie. Thank you, homies. Stay up. That's all I got to say.
I thought you were about to hit a rap song on me, man. That was a long one, man. But hey, listen,
nah,
man, it's
all them dudes that I named, them dudes is serious dudes. Like I said, most of them is never going home, and some, going home. But as I said in the beginning of the show, these dudes you would never know got life. They wake up every morning happy. They're cool. They got their family. If they don't have family, whatever, they're not walking around with a sour puss face. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, jail to me only does three things. It makes you worse. You know what I'm saying? You stay the same, or you learn from your mistakes and you get better.
Good message. Look, man, I'm going to close the show. Tell people, man, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share the video with respect. Blow down the razor wire. Until tomorrow, we're out.